Welcome back to Yang Daily. Big happenings are going on. Let's jump right into it. First off, if you haven't heard, another 4.4 million filed for unemployment this week, bringing the grand total up to 27 million, or a bit over 20% of the workforce officially on UI. So that's pretty awful. Second off, we have a new hashtag to push, and this is one we're pushing harder than any before. It's going to be a collaboration with Humanity Forward, Income Movement, Scott Santons, and others, including Andrew Yang himself. James Treacle has reported that Andrew will be making a call to action alongside this trend. This is going to be a big deal. Congress is now considering the next stimulus package, and payments for the people seems to not be in the discussion. That needs to change. The hashtag is Congress Pass UBI, and the trend will begin at 9 a.m. Pacific or noon Eastern this morning, April 24th. Please join us in rallying support at this vital time. Scott Santons is rightly calling out that Congress is feeling nowhere near enough pressure to pass a UBI, probably not even recurring payments, that our timing window is running out fast, and that it's up to us to apply the pressure. The only way to get this done is to make them feel that their seats in Congress will be threatened if they do not vote for it. In light of that, Scott linked a video of Aaron Swartz speaking on how they stopped SOPA, a bill to allow the government to shut down websites that they disapprove of. The original bill was able to strike down any site that violates copyright law, which would be the vast majority of websites. As Aaron warned, there have been continuous efforts to revive this concept in legislation via different avenues of attack since then. You may know the most recent incarnation as net neutrality, where the avenue of attack was allowing internet service providers to bias connection speed based on the site being connected to. Yes, the fight continues. Anyway, Aaron described how the bill had unanimous support in Congress and how they had to organize opposition to it in hardly any time. They started with a petition, which they grew to hundreds of thousands of signatures. They got every internet organization they could think of to contribute whatever they could to the information campaign, and public sentiment turned in their favor. Congress was inundated in calls and letters demanding civil liberties be preserved, particularly following a hearing in which people saw that Congress didn't really understand what they were voting for. Following that, support for the bill eroded completely in a single day, and Aaron drives home the point that it was not corporations who brought the bill down or politicians. It was the people, rising in force and taking action to make their voices heard by Congress. This got me looking more into Aaron, who was apparently a beloved civil rights leader that I had never heard of before. At one point, he started talking on how the world is not filled with evil people. There are just many decent people who are incentivized to do evil things by the power structures of the system in which they live. A valuable perspective that Yang shares with him, and that hopefully most of the Yang gang now share. One specific thing that he said was that he had previously assumed that mainstream media were just always going to be favoring corporations over people, and there was no choice but to wait until they die out to be replaced by independent media. Sound familiar? But he realized that reporters are mostly just following incentives and are largely lazy. When corporations hand them ready to print stories, the reporters run them because it's easy. Aaron said that when his team started handing such stories to the media, from the perspective of the people, they ran those stories too. This is an important point. I think many of us have discarded any hope that the media can give us a fair shake, and if things are left as they are, that is true. But the point here is that we can change that with smart intervention. The important thing is simply to remember that everything is run by people who are just following incentives, like any of us. If you want to change their behavior, figure out those incentives and how you can manipulate them to a better cause. And the most important thing for all of us to remember is that you are not powerless. Making you feel that way is the greatest weapon those in power can wield against us. Nothing changes until you first admit that change is possible and that you can make it happen. That is the first step that makes anything possible. This relates somewhat to a conversation Digital D hosted with entrepreneur Dan Price and Matt Skidmore. I managed to catch some of it, and it was a really valuable conversation, mainly from Dan, about the monopolistic power structure that is subduing capitalist competition, what values and needs we all share and agree on that can be used to build a movement, what entrepreneurs need, and how UBI gets it to them. worth listening to. We have a new warrior in the fight for UBI at the congressional level. Semelis Lopez, congressional candidate for New York's District 15, the Bronx, has pledged to introduce legislation that can be passed by Congress and signed into law by the President in the first quarter of 2021, which transparently funds and guarantees a true UBI at a rate that covers basic human needs. She supports a UBI with a provision to maintain existing social benefits. Whether that means stacking on top of everything or opting in, I'm not entirely clear. Looking on her website, some other big policies are a complete reformation of housing, decommoditizing housing, and ensuring that it is a human right for all, a federal jobs guarantee, Green New Deal, postal banking, worker co-ops, Bernie's Medicare for All, $15 minimum wage, universal rights to unionize, and a lot of other stuff. Near as I can tell, if it's progressive, Ms. Lopez probably supports it. Visit her website below to learn more and consider supporting her. The Yang 2020 campaign store is closing down at the end of April, so grab the merch while you can get it. Enough to last you until the 2024 campaign begins. Andrew's interview on the Tech Skills Day live stream has been released, so you can now find that at the link below. Some uncommon issues were addressed, such as the dangers of AI, both intrinsically and competitively with China, and protecting kids from the dangerous aspects of technology. Yang had a half hour that starts at 30 minutes in. And lastly, Netflix division president Mark Miller tweeted that Yang will be joining a Twitter watch party of The Matrix at noon Pacific time. Did not see that one coming. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Help trend Congress pass UBI. Check out the Digital D conversation with Dan Price and the Tech Skills interview. Check out Semelis Lopez. Grab some Yang merch. Help recruit burners and others to the cause and get everyone to sign the petition and join the UBI movement. Flood all of Congress and the White House with calls, tweets, and letters, but particularly 5 calls a day, using ResistBot or Income Movement for easy contact. Help us reach out to other social justice groups to unite behind UBI. Print and hand out your neighborhood outreach cards. Get your taxes filed or visit the IRS portal so you can get your $1,200. Consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, United Way, or the H3 podcast thread if you need help. Consider what we can do to push the movement forward in this critical moment and discuss with others at the local hubs and the support links. And don't forget to Yang Daily.